Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Out of the NFL, Zach Wilson is expected to miss the next 2 to 4 weeks with a torn meniscus and bone bruise in his knee. That has been confirmed by our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. The Jets' second-year quarterback will undergo surgery to fix the issue. Now, Wilson was injured during the first quarter of the Jets' preseason opener. Joe Flacco currently listed as Wilson's backup on the latest edition of the Jets' depth chart. CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis here to talk about this. Charles, first of all, your reaction. I mean, not the worst news. We were hoping that it wasn't going to be bad news, but still 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one because the worst news would have been season ending and you start over again. But 2 to 4 weeks, that means he's in line to start the season opener. But what you missed during that time with a second-year quarterback who missed time last year with injury is practice time. And the first thing I thought of is, will they be doing joint practices? I understand the Jets-Giants game, which is always the finale in preseason. There's a possibility of them getting together with the Giants and doing a joint practice or two. The reason I bring those up, that's when you get your best work as a quarterback getting ready for the preseason. Because typically in joint practices, it's your ones versus their ones. The contact may not be like a regular game, but everything else is full speed. He'll miss those reps during that time, but he should be ready for the opener. Stay sharp mentally, get those mental reps in practice, and then when he can, get back out on the field. But for a second-year quarterback, Jeremy, you want him taking every snap in practice heading into the regular season.
But if you're a Jets fan, I mean, you have Joe Flacco as your backup quarterback. Yeah. So, you know, the transition, certainly the security blanket that's there, is a decent one.
It is. It's very, very much a decent one with Joe Flacco, but you and I both know Jets fans. They remember what Mike White did last year.
Yes.
And they're wondering, where's Mike White? I believe you had mentioned me before we came on. He's third on their depth chart with Chris Streveler from the CFL and the Arizona Cardinals fourth. The big deal for them is, I think Mike White will get a lot of work now during this preseason. You know what Joe Flacco can do. He's going to be your guy if, indeed, you do not have Zach Wilson to start the season. But Mike White gets more opportunity, more practice during this time because you want to make sure that Joe Flacco's healthy in case Zach Wilson is not healthy for the season opener. So those guys below, they get the extra work. But the bottom line is, if you're a Jets fan, it could have been a whole lot worse.
You look at their schedule, too. Baltimore, Cleveland, and Cincinnati to start. 2 of those games are at home. They go to Cleveland. So, I mean, not exactly the easiest start in the world. That first 4 weeks of the season is a bit of a gauntlet there when you look at that. So, if you don't have him maybe for week 1 or week 2, I mean, how much does that impact the outlook for the Jets? I mean, they're in a tough division already. No one's picking the Jets to win the AFC East. They're not considered a team that's contending for a playoff spot at this point. But when you look at this schedule, how much does it hurt their chances if they don't have Zach Wilson for those first couple weeks in those games to possibly produce an upset?
Well, they're likely the underdog in 2 of those 3 games, Baltimore and Cincinnati, right out of the gate. Cleveland is the one that you're looking at and thinking that's your opportunity because you're likely not having Deshaun Watson based on what we've seen right now if you're the Cleveland Browns. So that's where the Jets fans are looking. Now if you're saying you don't have Zach Wilson, can Joe Flacco get you over the top in at least one of those games? I think that's where the impact comes into play. Because let's face it, they're really going to be the underdogs in most games going in.
Yes.
You add in that fact that Zach Wilson's not there, is not your number one guy, perhaps that impacts them a little bit more, especially the Cleveland game, where it looks like they'll be playing a backup as well in Jacoby Brissett.
And as we mentioned earlier, I mean, he's one of the prove-it guys on BMAC's list this year, Zach Wilson. So
yeah, listen, I just don't want to be. Am I on BMAC's list as a prove-it guy too? I want to find out because I'm going to have to up my game a little bit.
Charles, does this give you any pause if you're someone else, if you're a head coach in the NFL looking to start your QB1, and when you see something like this happen, it's a non-contact injury, so does it give you pause in terms of how much you're playing QB1 in your preseason game?
I don't think so, because I think you have to take each situation as it is and for what it's about. Veteran guys are not going to play in the preseason. We've had that established now for a number of years, right? You're not going to see Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to see Brady. You're not going to see those guys. We know that. They've proven themselves. The young guys have to get some work. I don't think any coach can second guess himself for giving Zach Wilson a few plays in the preseason. I think you have to do that. And as you pointed out so astutely, non-contact, making a cut, that can happen running in practice. I remember last year, remember the Baltimore Ravens before the season began? J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Marcus Peters, all went down on non-contact injuries. Sometimes bad luck just comes into play as well. I don't think you change what you do. I think you're smart about it. You don't play them a full game, but I don't know how you can second guess yourself getting a young quarterback a few extra reps.
Well, especially because it was first quarter too. It's not like he was playing into the third quarter of the game.
Yeah, I mean, he made a cut, and I think people say, well, get out of. Look, he made a cut. You're going to do that in practice every day, too.
CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis joining us to discuss Zach Wilson out for 2 to 4 weeks with a knee injury. And they'll be discussing this more on the All Things Covered podcast. We talked about BMAC with Patrick Peterson.
Look at Patrick, double dipping. I mean, playing, talking.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, multi-talented.
One of the latest episodes, update week 2 of Vikings camp. Pat P providing that. You can download and follow All Things Covered wherever you get your podcast audio. You can also watch on YouTube.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.